Bienvenidos, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. Remember to follow us on Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter. There you'll see all our social interactions and keep up to date with our latest uploads. But for Freeform Radio, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Daniel. Other host today is
Andy's back at him, and I was debating to watch Rosemary's Baby, but I didn't this past weekend.
But the big question is, you're back from what? Where were you, or what's going on?
Back from another week, man. The fucking grind, man. I know my summer hibernation, kind of depressing, but it didn't slow me down from trying to watch good TV or movies. But Rosemary Babies didn't make the cut.
It was kind of depressing, to be honest, Andy. When I was when I was listening to it live, it didn't really hit me. But when I listened back to it, I'm like, shit, I think Andy's going through a depression here, man. Maybe I should reach out to him and talk to him a little more.
And maybe I was, because I did, listening back to the episode after that wonderful edit, I noticed I said depressed numerous times. And I'm like, maybe I am depressed.
I'll find you a good counseling website that you can reach out to, Andy, because I'm not a good listener, because I'll just start shitting on you until you quit being so weak.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need after all that strongly man talk we did about John Dutton. So
right.
I need to know if I'm not living up to my expectations, Dad.
Right. Well, I guess jumping into the week, Andy, living up to your expectations, Star Wars. Do you think it's still up on the uprise, or you think it's going on some downward churn?
Yeah, I'm Freeform Radio's resident pop culture expert here when it comes to movies, and I've been noticing, the streets. When I mean the streets, I'm talking about YouTube. Somehow on my feed, me and the wife we're trying to watch Star Wars, from the Phantom Menace to the Revenge of the Sith.
Nice.
And we're on the second one, and I'm trying to put like a sequence of all the movies. Well, that being said, somehow on my feed I was showing her like the despecialized versions and like the Blu-rays, and how he's Lucas switched up the movies. Well, anyways, on my feed it came up on how Star Wars is failing to grab the new generation. The current kids, they're just not into it. It's not the cool thing. Like we kind of came up, I guess, because I didn't see the movie when it came out in the theater. I was just a kid. I was a fucking baby. I don't even think I was born yet. But watching it over on cable and watching it on VHSs, and when the THX remastered editions came out, and kind of fell in love with it again. Having the toys, but the last two, the first. The guy who did Star Trek, J.J. Abrams movie, everybody loved it. I was just like, it's just a remake of A New Hope, the original Star Wars. The new one, I can't even think of the name. The one with the
Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Everybody was just shitting on it. It didn't garner new people. It didn't garner new fans. It pissed off the old fans. And everybody's just shitting on it. And going back to YouTube, everybody on YouTube was just shitting on it. And how it's on a downward trend. The toys ain't selling. Disneyland and Disney World started these new Star Wars centers, things to the park, and they're failing to attract people. And there's even rumors already. There's talk of replacing it if attendance doesn't pick up in that side of the park, because it's just not. It's not meeting expectations.
Now the Star Wars theme at their parks, is it at both their parks? They're LA and Florida?
Right now it's in Disneyland. When I went out there...
Which is the Disneyland?
Disneyland's in California.
Okay.
Disney World's in Florida. The Disney World, I think they're finishing it up or something. I don't know too much about it, but...
Okay.
I know the Disneyland, they didn't really advertise it. Everybody knew it was going on. When I went out there years back, they were shutting down parts of the park because that's what they were going to tear down and remodel and put in the Star Wars thing. And they finally finished it, and they didn't really make it fan accessible. There, I was reading that you had to add reservations, and people were pissed off, so people didn't go. And then I think Wall Street Journal was kind of just like, yeah, this is just, it's not a flop, but it's highly disappointing, and that Disney is not scared, but they're like, man, what are we doing wrong here? And then
Yeah,
I
they're
saw another,
schizzard.
yeah, they're scared. I mean, they're talking about replacing that with Aladdin. That was like the rumor,
Like the
and
Will Smith Aladdin.
that's another thing, because they might have, I read reports how they fucked that up. The movie, the remake, the live action. But that being said, then there was videos of people, the toys ain't selling. Now there was one of these YouTubers that I watched. I think it was called World Class Bullshitters. I have to look it up, but he said there's a rumor they have a warehouse. Disney has a warehouse of like unsold Last Jedi like merch, like they can't unload. Like this is like they've heard it. He says he's heard it from a couple different people. I mean, allegedly.
Right.
So it'd be interesting. I know. I mean, the merchandise is just. I'm not. I mean, I'm not running out to get figures like I once was, but I mean, you go to the store, there's just a shitload of it, you know. And so, I mean, people already were shitting on it, but now I feel like they're like, it's official. It's official. Star Wars is not cool. Is this like a dead brand? Did Disney fuck it up? And there's been all this talk on YouTube, and like, and then who does Disney blame? They blame fans who are like us, who are just shitting on them, and they're like, "You guys ain't cool."
Well, I think even like last week's episode, I think it's easy to shit on stuff. I think it's like the new trend lately, and probably for a long time. But now with social media, it just makes it more in your face, predominant. But I think it's really easy to shit on stuff, and where to really speak of something well is a little more challenging nowadays. But you're right. I think a lot of people are being hard on Star Wars. I myself, I didn't mind even the Last Jedi and the one before that one. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was okay. It was a rehash of A New Hope. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it followed a lot of the story beats, but I thought it was good, man. I mean, that's what I wanted. I mean, sometimes when you eat a good pizza puff, you just want another good pizza puff. They don't have to reinvent it. With that? Yeah, damn right, man. That's what I'm talking about. So once you find something that you like, and you like the formula and you like the way it's put together, all you want is more of it. Now, granted, you don't want to, just constantly be eating the same thing, constantly be watching the same thing, and you get tired of it. But in the case of Star Wars, we had gone years without something that was deemed well made. The original 3 were kind of shitted on. Not the original 3, but the first, the prequels were kind of shitted on. Kind of people didn't really like them. They weren't the best, but I could see them for what they were, and they were good to find out the story that Lucas had in his mind as far as how Darth Vader was created. So it was interesting in that manner. But the new Star Wars movies, I thought, were a lot better. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it myself. Now, were they the original trilogy good? No, I don't think so. But at the same time, a lot of it's nostalgia, man. You see these old movies when you're a kid, and your imagination kind of runs away, so you kind of fall in love with them. And where if you watch some of those old movies now, maybe it's a little more difficult, especially at an older age, and you're a little more critical or have a little more keen eye at watching stuff like that.
I mean, me and you've had this debate personally hundreds of times. I don't care how old anything is, when it's good. And like the Star Wars, obviously the first two, the original trilogy, the first 2 films stand out. The third one, it was just like almost a big commercial for the fucking Ewoks to go buy teddy bears. But I mean, overall, you saw it had an ending, right? They defeat the Empire, and everybody's living happy, and they got some base, and they're all juking, and you're like, damn, man, those Ewoks are gonna get freaky in those huts.
And spoiler alert.
I know, man, like, and fucking Luke's out there like, hey, what's up, Dad? His ghost pops up and shit, and Yoda's
And
like,
Han
yo, what's
Solo,
up?
he cops a field.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. Like, this is stuff that we grew up on. Now today, it's like so. I mean, I don't want to harp, but it's SJW shit, you know. And we've had those discussions, but the whole reason I'm bringing it up, the downward trend, is the biggest. What Disney needs is the younger fans, like your son. I got him a Star Wars toy last year. I'm pretty sure that thing's buried. He was like Star Wars. Pfft. Like, do they even have a fucking video game right now? Like, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Is like that group. If you don't, he didn't ask you to go watch Star Wars. Did you take him, or like does he go? Are we gonna go see this, Dad? Or you're just like, are you just like, yeah, let's go watch Star Wars? Was he like, Star Wars? What the fuck is this?
Right. And to be honest, he's been more of a Star Wars fan than I really thought he was gonna be. Like my brother's kids, oh man, they're like super Star Wars fans. But that's because my brother's is like a diehard Star Wars fan, and he thinks
I mean,
all
your
of them are
brother's
the
a lot
best.
of diehard things.
Right. So he thinks
The
all the
greatest
Star
movie
Wars
ever?
movies, yeah, the best movie ever. But his kids follow that same passion. Now, I could enjoy a
Yes.
Star Wars movie, but I don't, hold them in that higher of regard. And so maybe my son hasn't, carried on that torch of mine because, I don't put that much passion into it. But I was surprised that when I took him to see the first one, which now the name is eluding me, not The Last Jedi, but the one before that.
Fuck, I don't know, man. That's how, and that's the one that everybody like. Let me see. Let me do a quick search, everybody, because you should
Right.
see how prepared we are.
But anyways, that movie, I went to take my son just because I was curious to see it. I'm like, it's a new Star Wars movie. Let's go check it out. So I didn't force him to take it, but it was more my getting him to go. And I gotta say, man, before that, him watching
The
a
Force
movie,
Awakens.
Force Awakens. There you go. Before that, anytime we would go to the theater, it was always in the back of my head, like how long before Junior starts fidgeting in his chair, how long before he's asking me when is this movie going to be over, and that was just his MO when we would go watch movies in the theaters. And The Force Awakens was one of those movies that he did not say a word throughout the whole movie. And when I would glance over to him, his eyes were on the screen, and it looked like he was enjoying himself. And even from talking to him afterwards, he really enjoyed the movie. So that, anyways, long-winded story is the Last Jedi. He was interested because the hype, the kids in school are talking about it. So he was like, Daddy, we got to go see it. And we did go see it. Now, he didn't have as much praise as much as the first one, The Force Awakens, but he wasn't shitting on it either. I didn't see that like gleam in his eye, like holy shit, this is a great movie.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the core I'm getting at, I want to say it's not. I think Disney has a brand problem with Star Wars. They were cranking them out. There's been issues. The merchandise, they're losing the original fans. They're not really gaining new fans. And now there's no denying it. They and there's even more backroom politics with Lucas. I'm hearing stuff that they have to pay. Uh, they have to pay Lucas royalties for the characters he created with like Han, Leia, Luke, Chewbacca, and then the new characters that when Disney got the rights or they own it all, they're pushing the new characters, but none of them are really likable, like Rey, Ren, Poe Dameron or whatever, and they threw that guy in jail. I mean, it just they're not likable. They're not. I don't want to say they're not good characters, but they're just not transitioning over to like the original characters. Even I feel even like the prequels, like with Jar Jar and Obi-Wan and them and Padme, those were like, I mean, the movies are what they are, but the characters were, I mean, they were decent. I mean, The new ones are just like it's just horrible. I mean, not they're horrible, man. I'm gonna fucking say it. I don't want to bash it, but and then the way they made Luke. So, but coming back to it, watching these videos, it got me to think. I'm even at the point where I'm rewatching the movies, and I mean, some of it's true. I mean, I feel like it's just not as popular, even when we were growing up in the '90s, in late '80s. It's just not as popular now. There was a resurgence when the prequels came on, the late '90s, early 2000s, but that shit ended quickly when the movies were just what people expected. Like I watched Phantom Menace. I feel like I was watching something about how the government works with the Senate and all this shit. It was just like, yeah, man, like what the fuck Lucas was thinking, like if someone would just talk about me to the Senate and Jar Jar's like, oh, talk about to my mind, and he's giving this weird speech, and then that's how he becomes emperor. Like, who gives a fuck how he became emperor? Like, we all know he's sneaky. He's a Sith Lord. Like, and it was just like it wasn't impressive, but the characters are what they are. But the new characters are not good.
That was a good impression of Jar Jar, man. I'm impressed.
Dude, it's just like, me, Jar Jar, yeah. And then when he walks away, he's staring at the camera. He's like staring you down. And the second one, like, fuck you, dude. And my wife's like, what's wrong with you? It's fucking Jar Jar. Look, staring me down.
You think when he's getting down with his girl, he talks like that?
Oh, me, Jar Jar, so horny. Oh, we love this. I'm sure that's what Disney. Man. You know what Disney should do just to really stick it to us hardcore fans? They fucking like bring back Jar Jar or some shit. Remember there was like that theory for a while Jar Jar was actually a Sith Lord.
Yeah. Speaking of YouTube, yeah. There's a couple good fan fictions theories where they think he's the real Sith Lord.
So Disney, I feel personally, they got an issues with the brand, with the Star Wars brand. So let us know what you guys think. You know, send us questions at ffnquestions@gmail.com or suggestions. Let us know your fucking theories. But Disney, something they have not screwed up was the purchase of Marvel and their Avengers. And they even struck a deal with Sony. And today the news broke that Sony and Marvel are not going to share Spider-Man. Sony's like, he's all fucking ours, fuck off. And I don't know how much you know about the details of it. I was kind of, during lunch, I was kind of reading about it. I was kind of shocked how that Rothman, the guy who heads Sony, is like, he used to be at Fox. He's like a total fucking asshole. And sure enough, he fucked up the best, and Spider-Man Far From Home was Sony's, it's Sony's biggest grossing movie. And they that's because Marvel Feige, Kevin Feige helped them make it. And Homecoming was another, like it's in their top 5 highest grossing movies of all time for Sony. And they just said, fuck you, Disney, we don't need you. We got our own fucking Spider-Man verse over here.
It's curious. That's the way you perceive the stories, that it was Sony giving the middle finger to Disney.
Well, if you read the deal, what I read, I mean, I'm not fucking there. I read from a couple different blogs and interviews. Disney came at them with like, this is what we want to do, and Rothman and Sony said, nah, we're not going to do that. That they didn't even counter. They didn't even make a counter offer. The deal was, from my understanding, Disney wanted a 50-50 split on production. And something back in with the final money. I mean, I'm not some expert, but it was something with a 50-50 upfront fees. And Sony's like, nah, we're not gonna do that. And they didn't even make a counter. And now, I mean, as before I left work, I was seeing that there's already people saying boycott Sony and shit because they're so pissed off that they're not gonna see Spider-Man in any of the upcoming Marvel movies.
Right. I mean, like this thing has been going on for a little bit. They've been negotiating, but it just hit a head yesterday, and then finally today, I think they finally walked away from the, whatever you would call it, the discussion table or the negotiating table.
Negotiating table, yeah.
Right. But the articles that I read, they did paint Sony in a bad light, but I did end up finding one article that gave a lot of facts and a lot of background information. And the basic gist that I understood was that Sony, at this point to the agreement that they had, was getting about 80% of the shares, and
Yes.
then Disney was getting about 20, give or so, a few million or whatever it was. But that was basically how it shook out, is that Sony got the majority and Disney just got a little piece of it. Well, I guess this go around, Disney, like you said, they wanted to bring it more in the middle and wanted to split it half and half. And Sony said that no, he's our property, and
Or they have the rights to him.
Right. They own the rights or whatever, and they're the ones that are going to distribute, and they're the ones that are going to continue to get the majority share of the profits. And I guess Disney didn't care for that too much, and they walked away from the table. And even Sony released a press release saying something to the fact of Disney wanted a bigger share because they have a lot of new movies coming out, a lot of new characters that they are busy building, characters that, to be honest, a lot of the people don't recognize. They don't recognize the Inhumans and the whatever the other ones are, the Immortals and the this and the that. The majority of this next phase are not well-known characters, except for maybe like Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy. No, Guardians of the Galaxy isn't even in this next phase. But a lot of the new movies that are coming out this next phase, a lot of them are not recognizable. So supposedly Sony was kind of putting it on Disney that they wanted a bigger share of the profits because they would need to invest more since their workload is so maxed out that they would need to hire people to help, lighten the load for some of the other movies.
I get that, but they didn't even counter what I read. They didn't even counter offer. Again, this is all allegedly. I mean, we don't fucking know. We just know what we read. But knowing the history of Rothman, he worked at Fox. He had a history of being just a complete asshole, complete tool. He fucked up some of the X-Men movies, and then they booted him, and he went to work for Sony. And then the Sony hacks emails. There's a lot of shit that he was kind of involved. But going back to the Spider-Man, Sony and Disney, Sony, I feel, when all this shit with yes, they had a great run with the Spider-Man movies. They're trying to create this. I've been reading Spider-Verse, their own little universe, and then they're begging to have Spider-Man involved, and they were begging to have some of the Marvel people involved. And speaking of characters, I mean, me and you, we read comics, we know about Spider-Man, we know about Venom, but the average person, what are they gonna know about Morbius and some of the other smaller known characters that that they're trying to push, and they're really banking on creating this universe with Spider-Man anchoring it because Venom was successful. It made a lot of money for them, but this Marvel, with the help of Marvel and putting in Spider-Man into the Marvel universe, that took, because everybody was anticipating Far From Home after Endgame, and like I said, it was Sony's highest grossing movie ever, and now they're like, we're taking Spider-Man and we're gonna go do our own thing. Thanks for your help, guys, but we don't need you no more.
Right. I think it's funny that a lot of articles are spun that way, and it might be true. Like you said, maybe this guy is a really douche or a tool. I'm not sure.
No, yeah,
but
he
I did. Oh, you know him?
I've seen a lot of documentaries about him.
Oh, okay.
And then the Sony hack thing, the emails, and the lady that's there too is I can't think of her name. She kind of ran Sony. She's the one that greenlit that female Ghostbusters. Then that's all I gotta say. Sony did that movie.
Jesus.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. That
Did this guy in his email say grab her by the pussy or what?
No, that's the president of the United States. But
Oh, okay.
no, it wasn't him. But I gotta say he fucked up some of the X-Men movies. But go on, you were saying.
Well, I was just, I don't know. It could be that Sony kind of, got a little big headed because they had a good movie and they had their biggest box office. So maybe they felt a little ballsy and they're like, you know what? We're not going to let Disney push us around since they're the big player right now. And maybe they played their cards wrong. And I think it's a mistake, to be honest. I know I'm kind of defending Sony a little bit, or it sounds like it.
I'm
But
hearing our fans say you're a Sony fanboy. That's what I'm hearing.
well, I do agree with you. I think it's a bad decision. I would have gave up a little more of my stakes. Maybe I don't know what the percentage was, but let's say it was 80 before. I would have been like, all right, I'll bring it down to 70, or give me 65 and a couple points in the back end kind of thing. I would have, if I was Sony, I would have, been adamant about keeping the majority share, but been a little more lenient and give them a little bit more, just because sharing that character does expand the Marvel universe, but at the same time, it gives Spider-Man something to kind of share with those movies and give a little nink and wad, to Nick Fury and to Iron Man and, Cap and all the other, movies, and just kind of have them in the background and just kind of, wink and nod to them and be like, yeah, they're over there, but we're doing our thing over here in New York kind of thing.
The only final thing I have to say now, Sony, they have the rights to Spider-Man. They try to make solo movies. Remember, after Toby with the other guy, which were, I mean, not the best. I mean, they're all right, but they put a lot of money into them and they didn't do very well. So they had this Spider-Man right thing, and Marvel was going gangbusters with all their fucking movies. In the long run, Sony had a great deal. If it was 80-20, that's a great fucking deal for Sony. I think Disney knew the importance of getting Spider-Man into these movies, so they were willing to play ball. So I bet you there's a lot of information missing. And now that they're back, like, all right, let's even this shit out. We can help each other out. And I feel like Sony, in the long run, it might bite them in the ass. But the other thing you pointing out, they have more characters. They got the Fantastic Four coming in. They have the mutants, the X-Men. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes down the road. I'm pretty sure Sony, if I was Sony, I'm not going to let those Spider-Man rights go for a long fucking time. They're just going to crap out. And then the other thing they cited, we did this Spider-Man animated movie Into the Spider-Verse or whatever it's called. Right, and they made a ton of money from them, and they're like, see, we did that on our own. We don't need Disney. So I think they're high on the mountain, thinking like, we don't need you, you need us. And to some extent, I think Sony is right. That's a good negotiating ploy. Like, you need Spider-Man in your fucking movies. We have the rights, so fuck you. And that's the feeling that I'm starting to see here.
Like you said, the Marvel movies have always caught my attention. But when I heard that Spider-Man might be showing up in the Marvel universe, that's what really got me like, holy shit, I can't wait to see this. So it really stoked my fire. I still think it's a bad decision by Sony not to strike a deal with Disney and maybe give up a little bit. But I think you're right. I think Disney just acquired a bunch of stuff, a bunch of X-Men, Fantastic Four and whatnot. So they're probably like, we're up the ass with characters. We don't really need Spider-Man, but we would like him to be here. But we need to, get a little bit more of the lion's share here. And if you don't want to give it up, then we'll just do it without him. So, yeah.
Well, you'll never know. Disney might just buy out fucking Sony outright and just say, fuck you, we got it all. So, speaking of Disney, Dan, I see we were kind of talking about this last time. Did you check out the new Aladdin? I see here on our notes here. Did you see the blue Will Smith or did you went nostalgic and watched the original animated Aladdin?
No, I did watch the new one a couple days ago with Alana. Finally got together and sat down and watched it. I wasn't too excited for it, so it wasn't something like I was like, man, I got to see this in the theater kind of thing. You know, we kind of spoke about something like that last week.
Yeah.
Um, but I was, wanting to watch it. It wasn't something that I was just gonna let pass by and not watch. So I was interested in watching it, and I gotta say, man, it did leave me somewhat satisfied. It left me with a
It
good
wasn't
feeling.
too woke for you.
Um, a little bit, man. All these new movies nowadays have a different sort of spin. Kind of trying to modernize it and kind of sometimes shove an agenda down your throat. Um, but at the same time, sometimes you got to turn your brain off a little bit and not look at every little thing and get upset about it. And this was one of those movies that, I kind of had to turn off my brain. And even though I saw some things and I would just be like, ugh, why do they have to do this? I would just be like, whatever. And
Like
I would
singing?
I would have to enjoy the singing and just go back to it and be like, all right, let me just enjoy I can show you the world. And, Aladdin and Jasmine are singing. So,
Are they juking?
there was some juking in the movie, but not in that scene.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it, man. I think for the most part, I enjoyed it. I think it was something where if you watch the original, I think for the most part, you will enjoy even this new one. They modernize it a little bit. And I think in a good way as well. They kind of tie a little more of the genie to Aladdin and give him a little more fleshed out backstory. So that was kind of interesting. And I thought for the most part the CG was really awesome. The only part that kind of left me unsatisfied was the final battle with Jafar. In the animated, he turns into like this big cobra snake, and there's like this huge battle, and then there's like a song that even happens at that time. They cut all that out, and there's no big battle at the end with a big serpent. So that was about the only part that left me a little unsatisfied. I wasn't aware that was going to happen. So when the final battle happened and the movie's going to its credits, I was just like, shit, they're not going to have that battle, and Jafar's not going to sing that song. I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks. I was kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about my summer blockbuster letdown. Aladdin, I have no interest to see that. I mean, if it pops up on cable, I might check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I like Disney movies. When my son was growing up, we were watching a bunch of these. And even before that, when me and Alana would just date, she would get, a little mushy for movies like this, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, stuff like that. She would like to watch stuff like that. So we would watch movies like that together. And, I've always enjoyed Disney movies, and I enjoyed the animated Aladdin for many years. And watching it live action, I know some people were crapping on Will Smith, but I think it goes back to what I mentioned. It's easier to crap on stuff that's not like the original. But if you kind of take a step back and kind of just look at it from the lens of this is something new, fresh, they're reinventing it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
It's the American way to crap on shit, man. That's what makes us happy.
Right. No, yeah, honestly, I do think so. I think a lot of people get joy and satisfaction from watching a video of some guy walking down the street and tripping and falling over. And they have enjoyment from that. And to me, I just don't get it. I might, on occasion, chuckle when I see something like that. But for the most part, I'm just thinking, like, this is, like, useless time video that I don't really need to be watching.
Well, that being said, Danny, would you recommend the movie to anybody? I mean, would you like, yeah, you gotta watch it, or just like, watch it when you kill some time, or what are your final thoughts on it?
I enjoyed it. I think it's something that people out there who like Disney movies, who enjoy Will Smith, they're gonna enjoy it. I think they're gonna enjoy this movie. It's very well done. The music is very good. There's one song that I didn't care for too much. It's a new one that they inserted in there, and it's kind of back to like I mentioned, the little agenda that they kind of shoved down your throat.
Uh-oh.
But other than that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good movie for anybody out there that's an Aladdin fan. It's a definite watch, a definite go see, uh, especially now that it's on video on demand and DVDs out there. So go check it out for sure.
Damn. I thought you were gonna shit on it, man. Goes to show I can be wrong, everybody.
Well, I mean, some things do deserve a little criticism on occasion. There's some stuff that I've watched lately in these last couple of weeks that definitely I've seen it more with a critical eye. But watching Aladdin, I kind of put my kid hat on and just try to enjoy it for what it was, a kid's movie that was reinvented for the newer generation. And I think maybe that's why I liked it. Maybe if I watched it more with the kind of eye that watched Rosemary's Baby, I might have came out of it a little more hating it.
Yeah, it's the fucking best movie ever, man. The greatest.
Right. But another movie that I watched, Andy, was another Disney movie. I actually watched Dumbo, but this one was a little bit different because I had never seen the original Dumbo.
Oh, so you saw the original?
No, I've never seen the original.
Man, the original is it's heartwarming. Me and my sister, we have a soft spot in our hearts for Dumbo. We watched it a shitload of times as kids.
Right. And now I might have seen it in passing, but I don't recall watching the beat for beat of it.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that when I watched the remake with Alana a couple weeks ago, it was totally new for me. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, hey, was this in the original? Is this something new? I had no idea. And after the movie was over, me and Alana talked about it a little bit, and she was just like, yeah, that was kind of new, this part, and then this part was kind of new that wasn't on the original. So it left me kind of wanting to watch the original just to kind of compare it. But watching the newer one, I got to say it was a pretty good movie. It was kind of, cheesy and, the whole, elephant being separated from the mom was kind of sad. And then later on in the movie where the mom is kind of reunited with Dumbo, but then there's another thing that kind of separates them. And it gets exciting. They put a couple action scenes towards the end that I'm assuming are not in the original. And it was pretty good, man. It was pretty good. The actors were really good. The kid actors played their roles very well, and even the adult actor, the old cowboy guy that came back from the army, he played his role very well as well. I'm not sure if he was in the original or not, but it was a very good movie, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I said, me and my sister Hilda, we watched the shit out of that movie growing up, and we know it inside out, and that's why with the remake, I was just like, man, I don't know if I can watch this because I was afraid they're gonna ruin it. And the original one is not really. When I heard they first made this movie, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, and I'm like, well, the original one, there's a couple stuff that's not PC for today, man. So it's gonna be that's why I said it's gonna be interesting how they make it. And then I read the reviews, and people were they weren't pleased with it, and so I'm still on the fence if I should see it or not. But yeah, I mean, it's to me that's one of the Disney treasures right there from the original movies, from like the first movies back in the day, compared to their return to glory like in the 90s with Aladdin and Lion King and all those great movies. To me it's right up there. It's in the upper echelon of those Disney animated classics.
Now the little bit of controversy or non-PC, like you mentioned, of the original, is that like Song of the South PC problems, or is that something else solely?
To me, growing up, there's a couple animals that are portrayed badly, and you know who what race they're going after.
Okay.
Because they're in the animated cartoon. Was there any crows in the movie then? Black crows?
I don't remember it, or at
Yeah.
least it wasn't predominantly in the
Yeah,
movie, so I don't
in the
really recall it.
movie, yeah, in the original, there's crows and they're smoking, and if I remember, they're gambling, like with dice. I mean,
I thought that's what
it,
all crows did.
exactly. So, and there's a lot of loud talking, and was there a pink elephant scene where Dumbo gets drunk?
No, there was like a hallucinating
Yeah,
scene, but it wasn't because Dumbo was drunk.
yeah.
Wow, so they had Dumbo drinking?
Well, he gets kind of forced. He gets a bottle somehow into him, and he's like fucking drunk, and he starts seeing pink
Wow.
elephants. It's like a trippy scene. It's one of the me and my sister would watch. We'd get creeped out. Like, man, we don't know why he's seeing all these weird elephants.
Wow.
And then that's why I'm saying like it's interesting to see if that's into the scene. But I know it's on the websites, and I really want to check it out. I don't say I really want to check it out. I'm still on the fence. Like, man. Like, I don't know if I should see this or not because I don't want to get it ruined, you know?
Right, right. No, it gets me curious to watch the original now, just because, like I mentioned, I probably seen it in passing, but never really paid too much attention to it. So I'm thinking about watching the original and kind of comparing it, and maybe I'll come back and give some comparison notes. But I dug it. I dug it. I thought it was a good movie, and Dumbo was one of Alana's favorite movies when she was a kid, right next to Wizard of Oz, and she said that the new one was pretty good as well. So she enjoyed it. Being able to compare both of them, she enjoyed it herself. But the last thing I wanted to talk about really quick, Andy, and it's not really anything that big, but I thought it was funny, man. I'm driving home and I'm just kind of stuck in traffic, glancing over to the car next to me, and they have a bumper sticker that says "Hindsight is 2020," and it had a picture of Sanders on it, and I'm like, wow,
Larry,
man.
Larry who? Sanders who?
The Democrat nominee, what
Oh,
the hell's his name?
Bernie.
Bernie
Yeah.
Sanders. And I thought, man, that is a great slogan, man. I'm like, I don't know who thought about it. I doubt it was him. It was probably some campaign guy. But I'm like, wow, that is actually pretty well made. Whoever thought about that slogan, Bernie really needs to give him a raise and give him some points because it looked like a pretty cool bumper sticker. I'm not a Bernie fan myself, but I thought that was very clever, and I had to give him some points for that.
Well, Bernie needs to remember his own party didn't even want him to win. They conspired against him. So,
Right,
but I get the hindsight 2020 because that was a guy. He was in the lead, and all the young people liked him. And but yeah, it's an interesting slogan. But I don't think he's doing too good in the polls. Everybody's up for Elizabeth Warren, so and Joe
right,
and Uncle Joe there, smelling little girls and kissing them and stuff,
right.
allegedly.
Yeah, I don't think Barry is doing too well, but I think it's
Bernie,
still Barry,
not
not
Barry
Barry.
Obama there,
Yeah, I
not
know.
Barry.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing too well, but I think it's still kind of early. I think it's still early. Um, I think just some of his thoughts are a little out there for myself, but maybe the hindsight is against the Democratic Party, kind of telling them like, yeah, in hindsight, don't you wish that you would have picked me instead of Hillary? Or maybe it's towards the Republican Party and be like, yeah, in hindsight, don't you wish I was on the voting ballot versus Trump? So I don't know who it's really to, but I just thought it was kind of clever as we were driving down the road.
I thought when you said bumper sticker, I thought you were gonna talk about the. You seen the bumper stickers that say the coexist bumper sticker?
Oh man, that one's I don't really like that one,
It's just
even
like,
though
dude, that's fucking annoying. And I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, ugh. And there's like different ones now. And I'm just like, well, why do people have this fucking sticker? Like, why can't you be normal and just have like a Chicago Cubs World Series fucking bumper sticker, some stupid shit like that?
right, right. I mean, I could give it kudos for what it's trying to promote. That everybody, let's all get along with each other. But sometimes I think the people that carry bumper stickers like that, those are like the biggest douchebags out there. So I'm not
Fuck
really
you
sure.
and your coexist, you douchebag.
I mean, I guess I'm generalizing it myself. So now I'm one of those haters out there.
I agree with your statement there.
But
That's both everybody.
But I like the sentiment that everybody, let's all get along. But I think that when you mean all, it should be all and be everybody, even people that don't agree with your opinion. I think that's the way it should be. But talking about driving, that kind of leads us into our article of the week. Yeah, and this article, it's kind of kind of a funny article, kind of along with some of the other subjects that we've been talking about today. But it's about a state trooper goes up to a driver that's pulled over on the shoulder on the expressway, and he has, and it's funny because there's some pictures on the article, but he has 8 phones that are cut through like a foam piece, like some kind of like styrofoam thing on the background, and he cut out like little spaces so he could fit 8 phones so he can play Pokemon Go while he's on the road. And the article, makes mention that there was no criminal action here because the guy was pulled over on the shoulder. He wasn't driving. He was just sitting there playing the game. But they did ask him to get on his way because the shoulder is for emergencies only. It's not for you to park and, lallygag and, get BJs while you're sitting there on the side of the road.
What? But I mean, maybe he wanted multiple camera shots or something. But that's why he had the 8 phones.
I mean, because I'm sure if a cop pulled over and he saw some guy, trying to get a quickie there, it would be like, all right, get a hotel, man. Don't be chilling here on the side of the road. So if he's not going to allow that, he's not going to allow this Pokemon Go for sure. But yeah, the article kind of goes into it. This guy, I guess, has 8 different accounts and he plays them all, and he tries to catch all these Pokemons, and he'll pull over on the side of the road whenever he finds a good battle station or whatever the hell they're called, and he plays and he tries to capture all the Pokemon.
When we first we were gonna talk about this article, I was just like, Pokemon Go, like this was fucking the shit like 3 years ago. Like, who the fuck's still playing this? And then I'm reading the article, and I saw the 8 fucking phones, and then on that blue styrofoam, with fucking rubber bands, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I saw, the cops said he wasn't driving, so I didn't give him a ticket. I let him go with a warning. Warning with what? If he wasn't breaking the law? And I was just like, this is fucking very strange. And then I'm like, oh, it's in Washington State. So I'm like, oh, well, Washington is, I've always heard it's kind of weird. So, just very, very fucking strange. I have a feeling if it was like in a big city or something, they would have fucked this guy up, or they would have been like called him a terrorist or something.
Yeah, I mean, Junior plays Pokemon Go, and actually he just got back into it because, like you said, this was the craze a few years ago, and it kind of died off, or at least in my circle it died off. But just recently, Junior got back into it, so I don't know if they updated it or they got some new things to it or what the deal is. But just recently, he re-downloaded it to his phone, and he's been playing it. But I've never really got into stuff like this, man. I've tried, to be honest. I've tried downloading a couple games on my phone, and when I have a minute or whatever, I'm not really doing anything or I'm waiting, I've tried, man. I've tried really hard to get into some of these games, but none of them really piqued my interest. And I'm a gamer, man. I like playing games, but I haven't been able to find a good mobile game that I can play when I got time to waste.
Well, that's the thing with the mobile gaming. It's I feel like it's a time killer. I mean, you're there, you're in line, you're waiting for an appointment, and you just bring that thing out, you start playing. And like, there's been a lot of hype on certain mobile games like Pokemon Go. And I remember the Mario Runner. You remember that one? Nintendo's first official app and all this shit. And like,
Right.
it was cool for like a minute, and then it just went away. And Angry Birds, and they just keep morphing it into different stuff. I mean, I'm not a big mobile game player. I mean, there's a couple games I download, and I'm like, okay, that was cool for like a minute, and then I just delete them. But the only probably the only mobile games that I would play is the Vegas slot things or some casino slot machine ones. And even those, after a while, they get boring because I'm like, I'm a fucking trillionaire in those games. But I'm like, so what does this convert into real U.S. dollars? Absolutely nothing.
Wow. So you actually tried those Vegas slot machine games?
Yeah, I've got they're actual, like, when you go to the casino, they have actual games that are in the casino. They have apps for them, like the companies that make them, and they make you unlock them by the more you gamble, the more you play. So I'm like, all right, I like these games, so I look for those and I play them. I'm like, all right, I'm getting my fix in. I'm gambling here. I'm betting like $100,000 a fucking spin. And you win big, and sometimes you lose your ass. But I mean, that's about the closest I've come. I've played all sorts of sports. I played all sorts of shooters. I played the puzzle ones and stacking and fucking moving the balls and running over people, not running over people. And they're cool for like a day. Then I'm like, fuck this game, and I just delete them.
I mean, I guess let me ask you this. So do you find the same thrill betting, $1,000 on there as you would betting $1,000 in real life?
No, it's a different mindset. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I'm a fucking trillionaire on those things, but I'm like, eh. And then like, all right, let me max bet $1 million fucking dollars. And you lose like 20 in a row, and then you hit big, and you like make up all the money you just gambled. And my wife, she was on them for a while and on the tablet, but even that, she's like, it's boring. Like, you get sick of them, and some people take it serious because they got leaderboards, and like, people, they sell you coin money. They have like $100 million sale for only like $15, special today only. And I'm like, man, how many people actually buy this shit to use real money to buy virtual money to gamble? And I'm
Right.
assuming there's a shitload of people because they keep offering it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you, I've tried like those even Texas Hold'em games,
The
and
poker games.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'll catch my interest for a minute, but when it's not really real money, I kind of find it hard to get interested. As soon as I start getting bored, I just start going all in, all in, all in, and sometimes you'll hit it big and you'll win the pots, and then sometimes you'll lose and you'll be like, oh well, I'll just start
Like
a new game.
like for a while there was the Simpsons game. Man, everybody was playing that fucking game. And then it just morphed into other shit, and I'm like, I can't keep up with this shit. Like, and it never really caught my eye. But like I said, this guy with the Pokemon Go, and I'm like, this motherfucker's still playing this, and he had 8 phones. It was kind of fucking weird to me, to be honest with you. Um, and all I could remember is when I started dating my wife, her nieces and nephews were into it, but they were like walking around the block looking for stuff and going to parks. And I remember there was like Pokemon like groups to go walking around, make sure kids don't get kidnapped or some shit. Like, it was very, very strange.
Right. The other thing that kind of crossed my mind when I saw this was that is he playing the games for 8 different users, and is he providing a service where he's getting paid, X amount of dollars
Yeah,
to play the game? And I thought about that. I'm like, maybe he's selling these
the
like,
accounts.
hey, yeah, I got the Pikachu, this brand or blah blah blah. Hey, I'll sell it to you for this amount of money. I was wondering if that's what he was up to.
I mean, that's a big business. I mean, Noel's talked about his Diablo account or something. It's like worth thousands of dollars or something to that, because people are willing to pay for those accounts. And that's the other thing, now that you're bringing it up, it might be that's what it is. I mean, the phones he had on there did look kind of old if you saw the pictures of it.
Right.
So I don't know what he's doing, unless he was like you said, people paid him to fucking level up on their accounts or something, and that's the only thing I get that popped in my head.
Right, because I did see like a news article once a while ago, a couple years ago. There was a guy like in Russia that had like literally 100 phones against the wall. He had like this apparatus that would hold all these phones, and what he would do is that he would constantly mine for, you know, materials or whatever in certain games. So all he would do is like push the screen of each one, and he would rotate through them. So he would just go up and down the rows, pressing this button to mine wood or the cave for gold or whatever, and then he would turn around and sell it. So as he was building up all these resources, he would sell it to people that don't want to do that, and they just want the quick rush and get to the quick, you know, top of the boards without actually putting in the work. And he would just do this for hours and hours on end. And I guess it was illegal in the country he was in. It was like some Europe country. I can't really remember where it was at. And he ended up having to shut the whole, you know, system down. But yeah, he was making money from doing stuff like that.
Well, think about it, like, you know, I remember Noel talking about a Blizzard game that they made a mobile app for, a mobile game. You remember that? And people were like super fucking disappointed. I don't remember, it was Diablo, and I just the only thing that might pique my interest if Blizzard or release something close to like World of Warcraft, because I never played it. I've always wanted to play it, and with the way the phones are now, I think I'll be interested in playing that, because I don't even see like the big companies. You know, more into mobile games. Like, I don't know. I remember when I first got my first smartphone, I remember like EA had Madden and all the sports stuff and all this stuff, Need for Speed. I don't even see them do that anymore. I mean, so I don't know how big the big companies or the big publishers are into mobile gaming, but I know it's a huge fucking business.
Right. Yeah, I think it's still out there to a certain point. I think it's kind of die down just because the marketplace has gotten flooded with a bunch of just like what do they call those shovelware, where it's just a bunch of garbage just shoved in there. So I think it's still out there. I still think they got the Maddens, but they also got hundreds of games that are just garbage,
like are copies of it, and then they're just loaded with ads. And like, that's the thing that pisses me. Every once in a while, when I do get into a game for like a week or so, I'm just constantly having to watch ads, or they're constantly, I can't beat the next level unless I upgrade to this other weapon, and I got to do all this other shit to get that weapon, and then it's only good for like a level or two or a mission or two, and then they're like, oh, you got to get this fucking gun, and I'm like, fuck this. That's when I really start getting frustrated with those fucking games.
Right. Yeah, you know, I think to each their own. There's people out there that really enjoy this. You see it all the time. People are on their phones all the time, whether it's social media or playing games. I just don't care for it. I don't know if I'm just too much of an old man, but I've tried. I've tried just because I do consider myself somewhat of a gamer, and I play video games. But I just can't get into the mobile space, man. It just doesn't call to me.
The only thing the other thing that really piques my mind is the retro games, and that was cool when they were re-releasing games and putting them on like the home consoles, even like with the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic. That's the only thing that would pique my eye, and when they released Mario, I kind of downloaded it. I'm like, man, this fucking sucks. Like, I was kind of really disappointed. And did you ever play the Mario Run game that Nintendo released?
Yeah, I did play it for a minute, but that also didn't catch my interest. It's just like running games where you just gotta press the button to jump. It was okay, and I tried a few different ones. I'm a Star Trek fan. I tried Star Trek games. I didn't really care for any of them. I tried Star Wars. Didn't like any of them.
The Captain's one, is that like too MMO-ish, or what is it? Like, you're just fucking hollering orders?
I mean, there's a couple different ones that are out there in the mobile space, but there is one where you're like a captain, you know, giving commands. There's one where you actually act like the spaceship and you're going out there for battles. There's even like a builder one where you got to build your crew, you got to build the science station, you got to build all these things and farm resources so you can build up your ship and your people and your crew. They're okay for a minute, but at the end of the day, they just don't capture me, man.
Oh, so they're telling me they're not making games to play Picard, right?
No, if they had that'd be pretty
I'm
awesome.
pretty sure they did some research. They're like, ain't nobody wants to fucking do this shit. They're like, what about Data? Like, yeah, fuck Data too, man.
Oh, man.
So,
I think
anyways, guys.
you're speaking that fake news, Andy.
Nah, man, that's been verified by multiple websites. But what's been verified here is we got to get out of here, guys. So we want to thank y'all for listening. Remember to follow Freeform Network at Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. And hit us up on our emails with ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let us know what fucking mobile games you guys play, or they fucking suck, or what are you guys into. Send the suggestions, the questions. We'd like the movie recommendations. Is Danny accurate in saying that Aladdin's the fucking greatest movie ever made?
Whoa,
Did you say that earlier, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
I didn't go that
somebody
far.
said it. Oh, okay, my bad. Well, someone correct us and send us an email and let us know what you guys think about that. And also check out our website, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There are all our classic episodes. You got to scroll down a little bit, but they're on there, and our massive, huge fucking 12-inch libraries on there too. So for everybody to check us out, hit that play button, like us on all your fucking platforms. And we haven't gotten deplatformed yet, so we're pretty good, inching to a number. So again, check out our website. There you'll see our links to Stitcher, iTunes, and Podbean, of course. Subscribe, hit that like button. And for Freeform Radio, we have Danny.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Have a good one.
Continuing his music theme for the last month. And fucking Andy here, fucking retro gaming the shit out of something. I'll retro game something. So maybe Pac-Man. I'm too old school, guys. But we want to thank you for listening, and we'll check you out next time. And hit that subscribe button, motherfuckers.
That was cool, Dad.